Welcome to MacroCode. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. So today we are going to continue with our video on .NET MAUI. As you can see, we have our API, that is employees API, that we are going to link it to our mobile app. So for those who are new, we had created this API some days back, and you can actually watch the video down below on our description. So for those who are still watching this video, you can see we have our employee API and we have our employee mobile app here. So we wanted to actually create a login screen, that is the employee login screen, whereby you provide the email address and the password, then you are authenticated via this API. So first thing that you need to consider is, you can see we have hosted our API. So we are using NGROK to actually host this API so that we can be able to access it via our mobile app. So if you new to NGROK, you can consider using it. Install, that is, host your local API so that we can continue to test. So let's go into our video now. So on our mobile app, we have done some few things that we like to highlight. So we have our application DB context, whereby we have all the tables that we want to be using. So we have our employee table, countries, constituency locations, sublocations, villages, and the mobile app users. So this is our application DB context for our mobile app. We have our constituencies table. We have the employees, countries, locations, mobile app users, mobile constants, whereby on our mobile constants, we are providing the API link. So this is our API link. So we are giving the NGROK link. So this is the link that we are using to actually test our mobile app and the API as well. So we have our sublocations and our villages. Then one thing that we did, we created an interface called iAPI connection, whereby we are going to actually now pull some users. You can see we are actually pulling get mobile app user. Then this is the endpoint that we are actually calling. Then we expect a list of users. Then the implementation of that interface is here. So we have our API connection instance, whereby we are actually instantiating. Then we have our constructor here, whereby we are actually getting the base API address, which is on our mobile app constants, which is the NGROK link. Then we are continuing with providing the security protocol, that is the validation. Then converting the data that we receive into a JSON. So we are actually expecting JSON. Then we have provided our base address, which is the URL that we have here. Then we have now the endpoint that we will be calling. That's the get mobile app user, which will be using the underscore API connect, which is actually this interface. So then we are expecting the a list of mobile app users. So if we launch our app, let's launch our app. So one thing that you need to be aware of using NGROK, we have our NGROK link here. Actually, your API should be running. You can see this is our API. We have our mobile app user here. That is the API, then /controller. Then we have the get mobile app users, which will actually retrieve a list of our users. So we need to actually have this API up and running so that we can be able to access it via our mobile app. So our API is running. That is it. You can see this is our API. And if we actually come to our mobile app users, get endpoint, we try, then execute, we will be able to have a list. You can see we have some users on our database. We have the James Mwangi Karanja, then macro code admin, then we have the email address and the rest. So back to our app. So on our app, under login screen, so for those who have been watching these videos, on our login screen, we have introduced something on our binding context login page view. So we have our API connection service, the implementation of our iAPI connection. So we have this service here. Then we are actually instantiating. Then if you go deep, if you go into our login view model, So you'll see we have our private read-only API connection underscore API connect. Then we have injected it here. Then we have our API connect here. So what happens is when we click on our logging screen, logging page, I mean, so this is our logging page button. So if we come to our logging page button, so you'll just go to our definition. Then on our logging page button, this is the button. So we were using the I command, but we changed this to relay command. So you can actually use relay command, then logging page, or you can actually adopt this. But this is the, to reduce the boilerplate code that you need to write, you can actually use the logging, this relay command. So if we click on our logging button, then we need to actually get our data. So we have our list of, so this is our list of mobile app users. So we are expecting a list of mobile app users. So to do that, we need now to have our app users, which is this list. Then we say await underscore API connect, which we had defined at the top here. So then we say get mobile app users. So if we just put in our breakpoint here and we execute this, so let's launch our app, then we should be able to see. So our app is launching. So let's see. So you can see this is our mobile app. So if we just type in some email address, let me just type in test. So we are not actually using this data. So we want to test if our endpoint works. So if we click sign in, you can see we have our endpoint here. So if we just step, you can see our activity indicator loading. So you are expecting to get a list of users. You can see we have two users. So we have test at Gmail, James, Karanja, Mwangi, password is that one. Then our second user is admin at Gmail, macro code. So this is the list of users that we have found. So this is the same list of users that were here. So now you can see we are getting a list of users, but now we don't want to be getting a list of users. We want to exactly have the email address and the password that has been provided by the user. So what we need to do, let's create a view model. Come on our view model, let's create a new class. So let's call that, so let's call this login VM. So if we just create that login VM, so this is a public class. So then on our public class, we can define some two things that we'll be passing here. So we'll say public string, then email. So we can say this is email, can call it email, then get set. Then we can actually also define now our password. So these are the two things that we have. So if we come to our logging page, we need to be supplying those two things. So to assign these values that users, so we can say variable user details is equals to new. So we'll say this is new. Then you can say login VM. So we can actually now assign email address. We can assign it the value that we are getting from our user. Then you can say password is that one. Then you can close this. So you can actually close this. So we can assign our password here. Then, so these user details will be getting the email and the password. So the email and the password is actually what we have here, guys. So this is the email address and the password. Represent the exact data that we have actually binded on our login view model, on our login page, I mean. So this is the password and the email. So if we come to our login page, we have an email address, then we have actually assigned the values here. So we want to create another endpoint. So we can create another endpoint here. on our I interface, then we can call this, this login. So then we are actually providing our login VM. So we want to pass our data, then you can say login mobile app user, login mobile app user. Then what we will do, we expect this to be can call it a post. Then we'll do here, we'll define here, we'll specify this is a body. So we want to supply our login VM. So we'll say login VM. So we'll actually be supplying our credentials via this. So then we want, in return, it will actually give us the exact user details. So what we need to do, we need now to have this implementation come to our API service. So we can copy this. Then here we are expecting this to be login VM. So we can import this. So then you can copy the same name here, login mobile app user. We replace it here. Then here we are expecting the login VM. Then here we can now say login mobile app user. Then we can pass the view model. So it expects the view model. Then as you can see on our app connection, we are saying this should be API, then a login. But now on our API, come to our API, we can have, you can see this is our endpoint. So we can create another endpoint. So let's create another controller. So we'll just create another empty controller for us to actually use it logging in. So we can call this login controller. So this is our login controller. So we have our HTTP. So we are creating our HTTP post for logging in. So we need to create our view model. So let's create a model here that will receive the credentials that we are actually supplying. So we'll create login VM. So this login VM, we can actually copy the same thing we have on our mobile app user, on our mobile app. So we'll just do that. Then we have it here. So we can go to our login, we replace this with that. So then here we can say login. So that is it. Something is wrong somewhere. Let's see. Just remove this. So I'll just do that. That is where the issue is. So we'll call this login. So then we'll call this login user. Then here we are expecting to receive a view model. So we'll call this, so this one will be login VM. Then we'll say here VM. So what we need to see, if we have this, so we can actually introduce some details here. So I'll create another model here. Then I'll call this model. So I'll call this model API error. So on this model, I'll have some public. Then I'll create string code. Then I can call this also, or I can have it as error. Then I can have this as message. So it will give me the error message. So I can now have this here to be part of our login. So if I come to our login page now, I can check if this VM is null. if it's null, I can return this, and I can even, so I can return here. I can return here, so I'll call this VM. I can say here dot error. So I'll say, I can say empty user details. Then I can also provide the description. I can say VM dot message. I can now provide my custom error message. So then I can say, please provide valid email address and password. So if I do that, and then I'll return VM. So I'll return my VM. So it will actually, so I'll say this return okay. Then I can put in my VM inside. So that is it. So else, if we have some records that has been supplied by the user, so I'll just do this. I'll say user is equals to at context dot mobile app users dot where. So you are going to get where the email address. So I'll say x dot email address is equals to vm dot email, then and. So if that is fine, you can say. So if we have that user, you can get the first or default. Then we can say, if we have the email address, we can check if this user is not null, then the user exists in our database. So what we need to do, so what is the issue here? I've actually seen closing this here. So if this user is available, then you can say valid user is equals to, so we get our user, then we say because the user already has, so you can say where, so you can actually say password. This user gives us the, so if the user is not null, so we can now say valid user is equals to mobile app user where email is that, and you can now have a password. So you can say x.password is equals to vm dot password. So it will give us now the user. So I can do that. So if this is null, then the email address is not valid. So you can also have this here. So I can say invalid email address. Please provide valid email address. That is it. So if that is what happens, then inside here, if this is null, so if this is null is equals to, if it's not null, so let's say if it's not null, then that user is valid. So I'll just do okay. So I'll just do okay. Or error, then I'll just have, so I can just have this as null. Then I can return the same user, the same details that were sent. Then if it is null, then our password could be wrong. So I'll just do this. Then I'll say invalid password. Then I can say please provide valid password. So if that is fine, then it will return us with the, so I can remove this. So after we have done, so if we execute this and test first before actually doing anything. So let's see our API, how it will work. So we have something wrong there. So what we need to do, so this should be controller base. That should be the case. So if we execute, we should be able to test our API. So there is an error somewhere. So this is the case. You can see. So what is the issue here? Yeah, we need to remove all this so we can actually get rid of all this. So this is our API controller, not the normal controller. So if we run this, we should be able to get our Swagger working. There it is. So if we come to our logging, so you can see we have the logging. So if we create here and we supply, so we can try. So what is our email address and password, the valid email address and password? So let's see our database if we have some users. So on our mobile app user table, I'll select that. We see some users that are there. So we can see we have admin at Gmail, then our password is 123 up to 6. So I'll provide the email here, then I'll say my password is 123456. So if we execute, you expect to get the same results. So you can see it has actually given us the same data, email address and password. What if we provide here the wrong password? There something is wrong. You can see. So let's see. Yes, so let's try and see what is going on. So on our endpoint here, you can hit it here as well. So if we do that, if we execute, there we are. So if we do that, it's not null. It has given us the user. So you can see we have so our email is admin. So do we have the user details? Let's see. So it is actually not null. You can come here. Then you can see the login VM. Then I want us to await where mobile app user. Then I can await as well so that we get the data. So this should be the password, or we can just have it that way. Okay. Then it should actually give us the first. So if we do that again, here we should actually retrieve the email address supplied by the mobile app. So if we execute this again, we have our email. Copy this email address, provide it here, then you say 123456. We execute. We have our model, so you can see our model. Let's see. You can see it has the email and the password. So if we come here, yes, here we have. So you can see we have now our data. We have the macro code, email, and the rest. So if we execute, we expect to have now the real information here. So if we give a wrong email, just put in some things there. So I'll just stop our breakpoint. So you can see it is invalid email address details. Please provide valid email address. So if we give the right email address, wrong password, there we are. Invalid password details, please provide a valid password. So our API works. So let's move to so what is our endpoint now? The correct endpoint here is, you can see here, it is API login. Come to our mobile app. So under our app API connection, that is IAPI connection, we should actually have this as the correct, so this should have a backslash. So this is the post method. What is our endpoint? It is actually a post method. So what we need to do on our logging page, come to our logging page. When you click on the login, we expect here, you should actually say login page. And now what we need also to do on our logging VM, remember we have we introduced something, sorry for that. So I have our API with some error messages, so I need this. So I want to be receiving this from our API, so I'll have it here as well. Then I can say this should borrow here. So then on our login, so we will supply, so you can see this is so if we go to the login page, so this is it, login VM. So we are expecting the user. So here we'll say login VM app user. So you're expecting only this data. So login VM app user. So our app user here should be logging mobile app user. So logging mobile app user. So then we need to supply our user details here. So we need to supply our user details. So then our response, we should actually get if, so we can say if our app user.error. So we need to check if this is null, then our user details, and so we can actually check. We can even check and sorry. So we can check if app user dot email address is equals to. We can even check and dot status. So we can check. So you can check if our error message is not equal to is equals to null, then we can navigate to the dashboard. So if it is null, then we can provide an alert. So we can actually provide an alert to show that this is a wrong username and password. So we can actually copy one of the alerts that we have. So I'll just copy this so that we move faster. So come to our login page. So here, so I'll say this is our alert. We can say login failed. Then we can say what is the error message. We can actually say login failed because, then we can put in some message. You can say here. We can add in the error message from the API. So we'll say app user dot message. Then that is our message if this is okay. So if we can test this API, so let's try to log in. So this is our, so let's put in a breakpoint here. So let's see if our app launches. So for those who are new to this channel, consider subscribing, like the video, and comment down below. So there we are. So we can actually put in our email address, admin, correct email address. So we'll say admin at gmail.com. Then our password is 123 up to 6. So if we click login, so we expect to see our details here. You can see admin at gmail.com, then 123 up to 6. So if we proceed, it is contacting our API. there you are, we have an error. So you can see bad request. We don't know if our API is running. So let's try and see. So this is so let's see if our NGROK is up and running. So if we do that, so we need to ensure that our API is up and running. So here we are sending the email and password. So I don't know on our API what we are receiving is the email and password. We can actually have the breakpoint to see if it actually hits our API here. So if we just do this, we should actually expect. So we can actually have this as a, yeah, that is fine. So if we try again, if we execute our app, if we proceed, so let's try again. So you can actually also have this alert here. Then you can say failed to log in, then the message from the API. So you can have that as the message. So here you can say message. So that is the message that should actually show. So if we try again, we can actually go to our implementation, mobile app user, come to our iAPI here, then you can see what it is sending. So our API is launching, our app is launching. So let's provide a valid email. So if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. You actually notice that 90% of you guys have not subscribed. So if you're one of them, please subscribe. So 1, 2, 3, up to 6. So if we click that, execute, we see our view model, what it is taking there. You see it is actually email and password. So then if we proceed, you can see login failed because bad request. So we are getting bad request. So to address this issue of bad request, one thing that you need to check is our login VM. So you need to alter this to ensure that we are not requiring the error message from the API and also the message. So you can actually add this to ensure that it is nullable. So after we have done that, come to our login controller. Ensure you have the from a body, then login VM, then VM. So another thing that I've changed is so we can add this as a root. So we can add root, then we have this login user. So that the rest is fine, where we are checking if this is null. Then we have our mobile app user, we are checking our email address. Then valid user, mobile app users, email address and password. Then we are returning the user and the rest if there is an error. So after we have done that, come to our mobile app. So this is the data that you are supposed to pass. Then on our app view model, ensure you change the login, check the endpoint. This is the login user endpoint. Then we are expecting the user details. Then this is the body. So ensure you add body, then you're passing the VM. So if we try this now, it should be able to work. So you can get that bad request if you have some data that is required from the API and you are not supplying them, or even if the route is wrong. So let's see our app. So we can try to log in now and see if we are going to succeed. So if we say admin, so this is our email, admin @test@gmail.com. Then our password is 126. So if we click that, you see we have our details here, admin at Gmail, then up to 6. So if we proceed, there we are, we have our details. Then we should actually now be able to log into our app. So there we are. It has actually returned. So if we proceed, enter, you can see app user has some values. It has returned the email and password, and our error message is actually null. So that means it has been authenticated. So once it is authenticated, then we can actually now go to our dashboard. So we can actually redirect these redirect the user to our dashboard. To direct the user to the dashboard, we can actually now inside our if we can have this app shell current go to a sync, then we can actually have our home page. So what was our page was a dashboard. So this is where our home screen is. Then you can actually switch off our activity indicator. So here we can actually put this to off so that it doesn't keep running. So also when there is an error, we can actually switch off our activity indicators so that it doesn't keep on running. So if we now log in, so if we launch our app now, it will take us to the login page. So if it takes us to the login page, we are supposed to log in. So we can say admin. So this should be admin at gmail.com. Then our password. Then if we click that, it should actually log in and take us to the dashboard. So we have an error. You can see global routes currently cannot be the only page on the stack. So absolute routing to be. So we have, so you can actually, so let's see this is the issue here, our global routing. So let's see if this is under app shell. So we can actually even, so let's we see if our dashboard is here. So this is it. So if we come to our login page, so we can actually do away with this, and we have this directly to our app. So we want this to take us to our dashboard. So for those who are new to this channel, consider subscribing so that you keep us motivated in doing videos at gmail.com. Then you can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we do that, it will actually take us to our login screen. You see it is here. So if we step, everything seems to be fine. You can see it has taken us to our dashboard page. But was that our main page? No. Our main page was employee list. But now our dashboard looks like this. So we don't want our dashboard to be, so we want our dashboard to be the main landing page. So what we need to do, we need to have this dashboard on our app shell. So come to our app shell. So the first screen here should be our dashboard. So we can say here home. So this should be employee. Then you can say this should be, you can have this as that one. So you can have this as home. So this is our home page. Then you can have that as home. Then you can have this to redirect to our home screen. So this is our home page. So I'll stop this. So copy that, come to our app shell. So have this as our page. Then I don't know if we have the view model here. Yes, we have the dashboard view model, which we had done it. Under my program, you also have the view model. That is fine. So if we launch this, so what you'll notice is we have already logged into our app, but now it will also redirect us to the login page to log in again. So that is an issue. We should be able to log into our app once, then it should actually keep the logging, keep us logged in until we log out. So if we say admin, so I'll just admin at gmail.com, then you can have these as 1, 2, 3 up to 6. So if we click that, there we are. So I can actually remove this. So it should take us to the logins. So you can see we have routing to shell is currently, so try prefixing this. So you can now add this. I think because we had not added that to our dashboard. So if we do that, it should take us now to the login page, the dashboard, I mean. So for those who are new to this channel, subscribe. So we notice, guys, 90% of you haven't subscribed and you are watching our videos. So subscribe so that you keep us motivated in posting more videos. So we'll do 1, 2, 3 up to 6. So if we log in, then it should take us to the dashboard. So you can see dashboard page. Welcome to .NET MAUI. Then on the screen, we see we have the home, employees. So we had done employees, then we had done countries, then we had done constituencies, and we had done locations, then sub-locations, and even villages. So if you come to countries, you can actually add a country. So you can see, you can say KE, then we say Kenya. So we haven't changed anything here. So if we save this, it will actually save our data. You can see we can add another country. We say India. Then you can say here India. Then if we save this, we have our another country there. We can say Nigeria. Then here is Nigeria. So those are not the shortcuts, guys. So I'm using this for testing. So after you have done that, we can actually add the constituency. If I do that, I'll select the country. You can see I can select Kenya, then constituency, I can say Nairobi. Then I can say here Nairobi. So I'll say here Nairobi. Then I'll save this. So it will actually save my constituency code. I can also save another. I'll select my country. I can say MO. So this will be Mombasa. So I can save that. So I can do the same for the locations. So we have the cascading. So I'll select now the constituency, Mombasa. Then I'll say this as JO. I can call this Jomvu. Then if I save this, it will actually save my data. I can add another one. I can say Nairobi. Then I can say KI. I can say this is Kino. Then I'll save. So if I come to our sub locations, I can also add new. I can select the locations, and that is how the app works. So we currently have our dashboard, so we can actually change our dashboard name here. The title, we can call this macro code dashboard. So dashboard. So that is our dashboard. So it will actually change the name. So we have our employees list. So to add an employee, guys, we had created a form. So you actually select the country, the constituency, the locations, the sub-locations are going up to capturing the photo. So if you are new to this channel, watch some of our previous videos on how this was implemented. So we need to solve something. Our app launches only when, if we now launch currently our app, it will also take us to the login screen. So if we just launch it, it will take us to the login screen. But we don't want that. We want our app, if you log in for the first time, then it should keep us logged in. So if we launch it now, you'll be able to see that we are taken to the login page to log in again. So that is not what we are supposed to be doing. So if you come to our app shell, not app shell, but app.xaml, so you'll see that we had something called check login status. So we had actually defined this. check login status, and if settings.current logged in is false, then it will take us to the login page. But if it is true, then it will take us to the home page. So we need to set this to true on login. So if you come to our login page view model, so after we have switched on the activity indicator, we can say activity settings.current logging. We can actually import these and we can set this to true. So if we do that, it should actually log us in and keep us logged in until we log out. So if we log in, then we should be kept logging until we log out. So we'll say admin at test@gmail.com, then 1 2 3 up to 6. So if we do that, it should actually log us in. You can see. So if I stop my app currently and again launch it, it will actually redirect me to the dashboard. You can see there is something wrong with our routing. So it is actually trying to redirect us to our dashboard, but how we have done the routing is wrong. So come to our app. So the issue is on our app shell, on the app.xaml. So go to login here. We should actually go directly to the dashboard. So if we do that, it should actually take us now directly to the dashboard since we had already logged in. So until we log out, then the user should be kept logged in until you log them out automatically or they log out by themselves. So you can see it has taken us to the dashboard. Come to our employees, then you can see our countries that we had captured. So that is it, guys, for today's video. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because most of you guys have not subscribed. Subscribe, then we will actually appreciate. So see you and comment down below in case you have any question, and we catch up in our next series.